Africans made significant contributions to the socio-economic structure of Guyana post-emancipation. But the systematic subordination of the African people by colonizers regressed these developments.
Many of the achievements of the freed Africans occurred during the village movement. Professor David Hines credited the movement to the development of Georgetown's coastlands.
Let me explain the significance of that. Prior to 1838, this coastland there in Guyana was the wild coast. It was a place where you brought people and you sold people and you killed people and you worked people to death, that you had no respect for humanity. What they did when they formed those villages is to humanize what we now call Guyana.
More importantly, the freed Africans recognized the importance of education and ensured schools and infrastructure facilities were constructed in their villages.
When they erected those schools, they were investing not in themselves only, they were investing in their children, in their future. You look at me today, you look at all African Guyanese descendants and other Guyanese who came later, and we owe it to them because they thought that education was important, and so they created schools.
The Africans also created a thriving economy, Professor Hines pointed out.
When they bought those lands, you got one house lot at the front of the village to build your homes, and then you got two house lots at the back to go and farm. And so what today we call the agriculture economy, the free agriculture economy, started in those villages. They created a political economy based on agriculture. What else did they do? They created their own government, what they call the village councillors and the neighborhood councillors, to govern themselves. They elected their own chairperson and all of that, and created their own government. So here were people barely out of slavery, and were able to construct a political economy in this country that we today are standing on.
The Africans are also credited with developing an entrepreneurial culture in Guyana, as well as introducing the spirit of cooperatism. However, these achievements were sabotaged by the colonial rulers, who frustrated these efforts with the imposition of burdensome taxes and other legislative measures aimed at restricting economic activity in the villages.
As our people were frustrated from the land in the villages, many of them had to leave and come to town, come to the urban center to look for jobs and to feed their families.
These structural challenges, as Professor Hines referred to them, slowed the development of the once thriving villages. Added to that, many Africans lacked the experience and finances to upkeep their villages.
But there were also challenges that African people have to take responsibility for, that we have not always passed on to new generations. The spirit of entrepreneurship that you asked me about, the spirit of cooperativism, the spirit of African pride and dignity. We have not always passed that on. You see, people thrive on being part of something glorious.
Redressing the damage to the systemic subordination of African villages, some that are still visible today, has begun.
That prejudice has not been erased. And that is why the United Nations passed this declaration, the International Decade for People of African Descent. And we, in Guyana, must try to fulfill those goals. Because unless we work towards the fulfillment of those goals between now and 2024, 31st of December, we will not be able to achieve full emancipation. Emancipation is not something that happened 178 years ago. Emancipation is continuous. You have to continue working to keep yourself from being enslaved. Keep yourself free. Keep yourself focused on the objectives of your forefathers. Building a strong nation.